What's up, everybody? We are 3 weeks into the NFL season, so it is time to get into another edition of Waiver Wire Ads. I'm going to give you some players that you should consider adding if you have an open spot or two on your bench. But first, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you subscribe, you will get notifications anytime that a new fantasy football video is out. So if you want the latest up-to-date starts and sits videos, waiver wire ads, trade advice, be sure to subscribe. And if you put any question in the comment section on a fantasy football start-sit question, could be a trade question, could be anything fantasy football related, put in the comment section. I will answer it for you and give you the best advice that I can. I've been battling a few health issues the past few days, so I'm not sure how many videos I'm going to be able to get out this week. We'll see. Only time will tell. I will try to get another start and sit video out like I usually do towards the end of the week, so you guys will be ready for Sunday. But today I'm going to give you a few waiver wire targets. I'm going to keep this one pretty short today, but we're going to start off with a quarterback, and that's going to be Jared Goff. Jared Goff has scored over 50 fantasy points in his last 2 games combined, and on NFL.com, he's available in 65% of leagues. So I think that obviously you'll have to see if he's available in your league, but he also has a matchup this week against the New York Giants, which is a very favorable matchup. Even Nick Mullins was able to shred them apart for a good amount of the game. So this is a very good matchup for Jared Goff. If you need a good start this week, I would recommend starting Jared Goff, picking him up off the waiver wire if he is available. To the running back position, I'm going to give you 3 running backs and 3 receivers. The first one I want to get into is Carlos Hyde. Chris Carson is going to be out 1 to 2 weeks with an injury. Now, Travis Homer may have a role in this backfield as well, but I would for sure add Carlos Hyde if he is available and you need some running back depth, especially as a start this week. Obviously, right now we're so thin at the running back position. We're just looking for anyone that will bring some sort of volume, and I believe Carlos Hyde will bring that for 1 to 2 weeks. So it's worth a pickup, especially if you have had a running back that's gone down. If you had Chris Carson, I would pick up Carlos Hyde. The next one I want to get into is Rex Burkhead, going against the Kansas City Chiefs this week, who have struggled for the most part against the run. Now, outside of Lamar Jackson, they were able to hold the running backs. Kansas City was on Monday Night Football. But a lot is going to depend on James White. But Cam Newton is throwing the ball a lot to his running backs. We saw Rex Burkhead have a monster game this past Sunday, and I expect him to have another really nice game against Kansas City, especially in the passing game, if James White is not playing. But we'll have to monitor James White's status. Of course, going through a tough time in his family right now. So just monitor James White's status. And if you're desperate for a running back this week, especially in PPR formats, Rex Burkhead is a nice pickup. The last one is my Steeler man, Anthony McFarland. He finally touched the ball, and he did some nice things with it. Had several explosive runs, had 6 carries for 42 yards, and he had 1 catch for 7 yards. Now, I realize that he's going to be limited as long as James Conner is healthy, but we all know that James Conner, there's a very good chance he'll get injured at some point in time. But what I really do like about this is that the Steelers need something more explosive at the running back position. Neither James Conner or Benny Snell is going to take one to the house, 60 yards for the most part. With McFarland, once he was in the game, you could tell it was a difference between night and day. I mean, there was much more explosiveness in that backfield. He's so much faster than the other 2 running backs. It's something that the Steelers haven't had at the running back position probably since Willie Parker. So this is a guy that I believe the Steelers are going to try to use in several different ways, but especially in the passing game. So again, PPR leagues, you should consider adding this guy. In dynasty formats, definitely should pick him up. I believe he could be in a 1A, 1B backfield with Benny Snell next year. Moving on to the receivers, the top waiver wire ad for the entire week should be Justin Jefferson. He's generally only owned, I think, in about 7% of leagues. That's on average. Ranges between 7 and 20%. But definitely be checking your waiver wire, see if you can get Justin Jefferson. I believe his production is here to stay. He had 175 receiving yards on Sunday, and I believe that production is going to stay because if you're looking at Minnesota's defense, they are not the defense they once were. They can't hold anybody right now, so they're going to be in a lot more shootouts than they probably wanted to be in. So Kirk Cousins is going to have to throw the ball a lot more, and Adam Thielen's getting a lot of double coverage. So someone has to emerge as that number 2 wide receiver, and someone else is going to have to get those targets that Adam Thielen doesn't get. So I believe that Justin Jefferson is going to take some of that pressure off of Adam Thielen the next few weeks, and maybe we'll get to see this offense to start clicking, because Minnesota does have a really talented roster still, even though they lost some pieces on defense, but they cannot afford to go 0-4 this week against the Texans. Greg Ward is the next receiver. We got into him a little bit at the end of last year. Those of you in fantasy land, the Eagles are just decimated with injuries, and that's not a new thing for Philadelphia. But he did have 11 targets, brought in 8 of those for 72 yards and a touchdown. And we don't know about the status of Alshon Jeffrey, Jalen Reagor, going to be out for a while. They're starting to lose their receivers again. Someone has to catch the balls. I know Carson Wentz is struggling, but he's still a fairly good quarterback. If that offensive line can hold up at least a little bit better, someone in this passing game is going to have to contribute. Dallas Goedert could be out for a little while, so someone has to step up. Maybe it could be Greg Ward. So if you're really thin at wide receiver, may not be a bad pickup this week. The last one is a guy that I've mentioned before, and if he isn't picked up by now, you need to pick him up, and that's Allen Lazard. He had a great game on Sunday Night Football against the Saints. Of course, Devontae Adams was out. I understand that. But Aaron Rodgers has really seemed to trust Allen Lazard a whole lot more. Lazard has gotten a whole lot better with the hands. He's improved in his route running and blocking. He's used a lot as a blocker. I know that doesn't get you fantasy points, but Matt LaFleur does like to reward those players that do the dirty work. So I believe Allen Lazard will be able to, depending on matchups, but if you play the matchups, I believe he can have you a good 15-point performance here and there throughout the year. And that's something that, especially once the bye weeks start coming, you're going to want that type of production as a flex play. The last one I'm going to get into is Jimmy Graham, and I'm not a huge Jimmy Graham fan, but if you are desperate, and this is if Mo Alley Cox is picked up, if this is if Eric Ebron is picked up, if this is, a lot of other running backs are gone, and you are desperate for a running back, you can take, or for a tight end, you can take a chance on Jimmy Graham because Nick Foles does like throwing to the tight ends. Of course, he had the tight ends in Philadelphia with Trey Burton and Zach Ertz. Of course, he ended up not doing a whole lot in Jacksonville, but Nick Foles likes throwing to the tight ends. So I believe that Jimmy Graham is going to get heavily involved in this passing game now that Nick Foles is the starting quarterback. Only time will tell, but if you need a tight end, I believe Jimmy Graham actually does bring some upside to the table. That's going to do it all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I am going to try to get out a start and sit video like I do every week, but be sure to subscribe, hit the bell icon so that you get notifications anytime that a new video is out. Be sure to put your questions in the comment section if you have any fantasy football comments or questions, and I will answer them as quickly as possible. Thank you so much for watching. That's going to be all for today. You have a good one.